I just wrapped up with a client today, and I wanted to talk to you guys about what finally led me to make such a big move to leave my boudoir photography business. Number one, of course, I want to change my life. But when I look back, there wasn't one aha moment where I suddenly had everything figured out. It was more of a series of realizations that kept showing up until I couldn't ignore them anymore. The interesting thing is that some of these had been there for years, but I got really good at pushing everything down because my life is so busy, I don't have time for changes. And so everything on the surface looked fine, but there was a lot more brewing underneath. So if, like me, you've been feeling restless in your life or anywhere in your career, here are 5 signs that it might be time to pivot. Sign number 1 is you keep imagining a different life. We don't randomly imagine different lives. If the same thought keeps coming up, that is a sure sign that it's something that you need to pay attention to, and it's time to start exploring. If you want to make time for something creative or some other pursuit, you want to start a business, start traveling more, whatever it is, if you've been having the same conversations with yourself, the same visions keep coming up, it's time to stop treating it like background noise and start investigating. You don't have to go out and blow up your life, but you do owe it to yourself to get curious about why these thoughts keep coming up. You want to think of them as invitation to explore something that you've been ignoring. Sign number 2 is that you've stopped feeling challenged. One thing I've learned about being really good at something is that things become a little bit more predictable. This is one of the things that I face in my business all the time because I already know when my clients come to see me that it's not really all that unique what they're experiencing. Of course, they're nervous and they're going to say one or a series of these things, and I know exactly how to answer them. And there's nothing wrong with that because I know a lot of my clients haven't done a boudoir session before. However, I am not challenged by this work anymore. I've been doing it for 13 years. I've seen any and every body type, scar, mobility limitations. You name it, I have seen it all and worked with it all. I know exactly what tomorrow is going to look like, even though there's a different woman sitting in front of me. And I've become so experienced that things are very predictable. And a lot of people like that, but I'm looking for now a little bit more of a challenge. And so from the outside looking in, this can look like success. Of course, you want to be working within a successful system that helps people to follow a certain flow. From the outside looking in, of course, that can look like success. And in many ways, it is. But I also think it's worth asking yourself if you're still growing or whether you've become really good at maintaining and staying in your comfort zone. Sign number 3 is you feel underwhelmed. This is probably one of the hardest to admit and face up to because shouldn't we leave things alone if everything is fine? You've worked hard, you've reached your goals, you've built the business, you've gotten the promotion, and you've created the life that you've spent years working toward. And then one day you look around and you've noticed that you feel not unhappy, not miserable, just underwhelmed. And you start wondering if you're expecting too much. Can't you just be happy with what you have? And of course you can. Gratitude is always number 1, but being grateful and honest about how you feel don't have to compete with one another. You can appreciate everything you have and everything you've built, but still recognize that you've changed, that what you want has changed. And there's nothing wrong with desiring something new in your life. Sign number 4 is you're staying because it's familiar. I think this is where a lot of us get stuck because we are so busy focusing on the comfort. We want to stay in our comfort zone. We don't want to rattle the cage. And the longer you've been doing something, the more it becomes part of your identity. People literally know you for it. You're known as the photographer, the business owner, the masseuse, the mom, the teacher. One example for me is I had a client the other day and she was super nervous about her session. Immediately when she comes in and once her makeup was done and everything, we have music playing and I'm literally shooting and posing her. And of course, I'm hyping her up. She was literally slaying her session. And I guess inside, she didn't feel like she was doing anything right. As soon as I started showing her images on the back of the camera, and you could see literally the unfolding, the revealing of her confidence. And that's something I cherish. I love to be able to bring that out in people. And she said something during her session that at one point would have been the highlight of my year even. She literally exclaimed, "Veronica, you were made for this. I don't see you doing anything else but this." She went on to say more about how much she was loving her experience and how I had helped her to feel confident even during the shoot. Little did she know I had already been having these conversations over here with you all about how I'm ready to walk away from my business. And when she said these words to me, it felt the furthest away from my personal truth. And when we talk about people knowing you for a certain thing, it gets harder and harder to separate yourself from what you do. Then familiarity starts making decisions for you. And you just keep going because that's what you've always done. And you tell yourself that it makes sense because you've already invested so much time, energy, and effort. But the time you've already spent doing a thing shouldn't be the only reason you keep spending more of it. The years that you've actually worked hard and worked up to this moment, they won't be wasted. That is literally what has shaped you and prepared you for the very next thing. You do not have to allow that time that you've spent to define the rest of your life. Sign number 5 is that you're more afraid of never trying than actually failing. At the beginning of my business, and before I actually started my business, I was afraid of the unknown and I don't know how. I didn't know how I was going to start my business, how I was going to set it up, where I was going to get clients from, how I was going to make money even from these clients. I wasn't even sure if I was making the right decision to start a business in the first place. I just knew that at that time, there was a version of my life that I wanted more than the one that I was living. The mistake that I now know that I was making then was that I was focusing on a destination instead of focusing on making the very next step to get ahead. I didn't need to know how I was going to get there. I just needed to become a little bit better than I was the day before. One small decision, day after day, led to another. Through all of the mistakes, all of the victories, all of the setbacks, and eventually I had built a business that I could have never imagined. So maybe you've been telling yourself the same thing that I was telling myself back then. I don't know how. And if that's keeping you stuck, it's time for you to move forward. What if instead of asking yourself, how do I reach this next destination? And instead you start asking yourself what the very next step is. That is the only thing you need to be concerned about. You don't have to know exactly where the path ends before you even start walking it. You just have to move beyond the starting point. And that's exactly where I find myself today. I don't know where opportunities are going to come from. I don't know what challenges I'm going to face in this next chapter. What scares me more than anything is reaching the end of my life and finding that I haven't challenged myself beyond what I have so far. I don't ever want to have to wonder what would have happened if I didn't ignore that voice that was telling me there was something more for me. I've officially reached the point where the discomfort of staying exactly where I am is greater than the uncertainty of whatever it is that lies ahead. If any of this resonated with you today, I would hope that you would start to take action. And that doesn't mean blow up your life tomorrow. Most pivots don't begin with this dramatic decision. It begins when you simply start paying attention to what's coming up for you again and again. Give yourself permission to be curious. Start asking better questions. Start exploring the possibilities instead of making decisions that they're already impossible. You don't have to know exactly where you're going in order to take the first step. You just have to be willing to admit to yourself that something inside you is asking for a different direction in life.